Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to review another horror movie that came out this month, Speak No Evil. Now this movie technically it came out this year, but it technically is a remake. Now typically remakes are movies that came out, remakes of a movie that came out a while ago, or maybe one that needed an updated version, or maybe they just wanted to modernize it. But this movie that it is a remake of came out 2 years ago with the same name. So I don't know about you guys. There are so many people out there with much more movie knowledge than me. But I can't say I've heard of any other movie that got a remake 2 years later. So, irregardless, this movie I really enjoyed. I have heard that compared to the one that came out 2 years ago, this new one is a much more tame version. I hear the other was much more graphic in every sense, and so I can't compare it too much because I haven't seen it. That's just what I've heard, and so really our review is going to be focused on the new one here today. So this movie is James McAvoy is essentially the lead in this movie. I think he's the most well-known, or one of the most well-known members of the cast for this movie, and although everyone did have a really good acting performance, he's the standout only because of his range and his skill set, everything he brings to his roles, no matter what role that is. He goes above and beyond to make it just something spectacular. And if you've watched movies like Split, he had a very, very good role in that one where you see a variety of his acting skills, where he sort of got to do sort of a little bit of everything. And in this one, this is a much, I wouldn't say it's darker than his character in Split, but there's just very similar sinister tones and decision making and plot with his characters. And so I just use Split as an example of his acting range because I thought clearly in that movie he was the standout from that one as well. If you've seen the X-Men movies where you have the younger cast, McAvoy is the standout in those as well. So it's just sort of it's just something about him where he's always the standout in essentially every movie he's in. And this one is no different. Although in some other movies, I'm not going to talk about how the cast did, how his co-stars did in other movies, but in this one, I thought everyone did a really great job. And so, let's sort of dive into it. In this movie, you have James McAvoy, who's Patty, his wife, Sarah, and their son, Ant. You have this family of three. They are sort of vacationing, and they meet this other family with Ben, Luis. Ben is the husband, Luis is the wife, and Agnes is the daughter. So, really, you have 6 characters. There are a little bit more characters there. There's extras, but as far as named characters are concerned, I only recall 2 other characters, possibly a third. And so this is one of those movies where you have a very small group of characters, and for the story they wanted to tell with this, I think it worked. I think if you had 15 characters, I think it would have just sort of watered down the impact of your standout cast members. So I really love the decision making that went into this movie to have such few characters. Like I said, I haven't seen the other Speak No Evil movie, but I'm curious to know how many characters were involved in that one as well. And so getting back to this one, you have your 2 families of 3, basically. And as they get to know each other a little bit, Patty invites this other family to come stay with them. It's sort of this remote property. Their neighbors are miles away. It's very, very secluded. It's very secluded, and you just get this sense of dread the entire time. If you've seen a trailer for it, you know he's not a good dude. But it's just one of those things that sucks because he's such a good actor. Beginning of the movie, he's such a likable guy, he's such a likable character, and it just shows his range. So in the beginning of the movie, or should we say toward the beginning, he invites this other family to stay with them, and that's the plot, is these 2 families sort of coexisting with each other for this week that Ben's family is staying with him for. But you have mainly Luis and Sarah. They are sort of clashing on how to parent each other's children or their own children. And that's sort of how the dialogue is presented in this movie, where it's uncomfortable situations, it's awkward, it's intense. They're making very subtle jabs at each other, the way, jabs at their parenting style. And it's just one of those things where sometimes they're being over the top ridiculous, sometimes it's simple things, and it's hard to determine what to expect next with the way the dialogue was handled in this one because of the clever dialogue that it was. And so you have sort of the straining relationship because Ben, we get the sense that for the most part he's just kind of a pushover. He gets character development throughout, but his general character identity is a pushover. And I think the awkwardness that comes between the characters, it sort of, as an audience, makes you want to say, oh, I don't know if the characters was handled very well. I don't know if the acting was very good because it was so awkward. But you forget, or I had to remind myself, that's the way it's supposed to be. So if you take that into account, the awkward conversations, the sort of the bad jokes, just the way they talk to each other, it's all intentional. As far as the script's concerned, the directing's concerned, the dialogue between them, it's all very intentional. And I think that just makes it, I think it adds to what makes this movie really, really good. Was the way they interacted because of the script and because of how the actors presented their characters. And so, as they're clashing with parenting styles, they're also clashing with decision making. Luis, little by little, is wanting to leave. Ben loves it there. They both are sort of have different opinions on their living situation. Their daughter sleeping on the floor. Their bed is dirty. It's just these, those little things that for Patty and Sarah, Ben's family wants to mention these things to his family, saying, "Hey, can we get different sheets? Can she not sleep on the floor?" It's those little things that you want to be a good guest, the others want to be a good host, but a lot of the circumstances are just sort of accepted by both families from fear of not wanting to say anything to the other, and that's a lot of the clashing between them. And it just made, I think, the uncomfortable situations the characters are presented in is what made this movie very intense. I was on the edge of my seat for pretty much most of this, and it's because of how everything was presented. And so, I know I'm sort of repeating myself, but I just really liked it a lot. And that's sort of beginning and middle is their two families clashing. So as we get sort of toward this third act, and Patty and Sarah's son, he sort of, this is where the plot twist takes over. And so in this plot twist, it's pretty interesting where Ant is trying to get information to people, to some of the other characters, mainly to Agnes, because since they're both children, they're the ones that are Ant's just connecting with her more than the others. And so trying to get the information to one another was actually pretty interesting because he doesn't speak in this movie. And there's, Patty gives a reason why. You find out it's not necessarily exactly how it happened. And so, the secrets you find out later in the movie, it's just, the plot twist I think was pretty interesting. I liked how it was handled. I like how it was revealed. And how the cover-up for the reveal was being handled. I thought it was very, very intense. I'm trying not to spoil so much. I really, really want to. But I want to give a spoiler-free review for this. And so the third act is basically after the revelations happen, there's sort of your final confrontation. It becomes truly family versus family. And one of the other characters does get involved, so you, I guess, technically have 7 characters all pitted against each other toward or in this final act. And of course, there's weapons involved, there's locking the doors, there's trying to leave. It's just a lot of very intense situations with the little details. The way it's filmed makes you think if maybe if this could kill this person, or that would kill this person, or they're not gonna be able to get away, or maybe this person would survive and that one wouldn't. It's just a very back and forth sort of emotional roller coaster, depending on who you've connected with most, depending on which character you've connected to. And so, as best I can say without spoiling, I thought it was a much more lighter ending than what I've heard the other movie ended with. Apparently, the other movie's ending was pretty rough. This one is a little bit more lighthearted, I guess, and so it was a really great movie. Like I said, the plot twist I really won't spoil, but I just won't. The plot twist really set everything else in motion for the rest of the movie, creating all these awkward, now intense situations. Everything just multiplied and became more with all of the emotions and kinds of conversations that we're having. I guess the best way I could briefly sum up the movie is it started small and everything just started escalating little by little to become bigger and bigger problems between the characters. So overall, this movie, between the dialogue and the situations, it's unsettling. It's hard to sit through because of all of that. It's kind of awkward, but this was not a very violent movie. It's not very gory. If you've seen plenty of horror movies, this is gonna be just an easy breeze for you guys. This was not very gory at all. If you're a fan of someone from the cast, or you've seen the other movie maybe, or maybe not, with it being darker, I guess what I'm trying to say, if you like the cast and you're not really sure you want to dive into the horror genre, this movie's sort of somewhere between. It's kind of a thriller. It's a mystery movie as far as what the revelations are. So if you're not really a fan of horror, I think you can get away with being perfectly fine with this one. I liked it. Like I said, between McAvoy and really the rest of them, there was some really great acting in this movie. I liked the pacing. None of the scenes felt, in my opinion, too long. Everything felt like it was just right, and the pacing was really good because I think it kept you in the moment long enough to feel that tensity, but it didn't keep you in the moment too long to where you felt bored with it or like it was dragging. I just didn't get that from this movie. So all in all, I liked it a lot. I think, like I said, McAvoy being the standout isn't fair to the rest of the cast because he's just so freaking good. But everyone did a great job, and if it's anything like the last movie and this one, a couple years, we'll get another Speak No Evil movie. So we'll see what happens, guys. I liked it. If you guys check it out, if you watch this movie, please put in the comments. Let me know what you thought. I'm just hearing not a lot of people talk about it, which is really unfortunate. I think I don't think it's globally. I think domestically made $11 million opening weekend on a, I believe, $15 million budget. So I think it'll probably break even. Of course, that's not taking into account really the marketing, but I think this movie has a chance to at least make its money back. It's just, unfortunately, I think, buried under a couple other movies, and that's why just not a lot of people are talking about it. But if you have an interest, go see it for yourself. If you enjoy it, recommend it to others, because I think this one will unfortunately just fall under the radar, and it's undeserving to end up there. So, like I said, let me know what you think about the movie, guys, and thanks for staying with me for this review. As always, I'll see you guys next time.